But I mean, I'm really encouraged by the amount of people who have turned out today. Now, I'm going to introduce Jane Aitchison. She's a PCS activist in Leeds. She was National President of the DWP section of PCS from 2004 to 12. Jane's currently President of Leeds Trade Union Council, Joint National Secretary of Unite the Resistance. So, thank you, Jane. Welcome.
Well, thank you for inviting me down here, brothers and sisters. I don't know if any of you have been watching the Conservative Party conference on the news this week. Perhaps through your fingers. They've unveiled another round of cuts and nasty policies which are more hateful than Theresa May's £1,000 trousers. In Tory Britain today, we mustn't be young, brothers and sisters, because they intend to take benefits away from all the under-25s unless they are, as they put it, earning or learning. But at the same time, of course, this is a government that cut the education and maintenance allowance that supported 16 to 18-year-olds in their learning. Also, they started charging £9,000 worth of fees for university, and they have really done nothing, as youth unemployment has spiralled over 1 million and currently rests at 960,000 under-25s unemployed in our country, abandoned on the dole today. At the same time, brothers and sisters, don't be unemployed under this government. The latest attack is to keep the unemployed in a room for 35 hours to give them a taste of what working is like, only without the wages and without any sense of productivity or purpose that we get from work. And still there are no jobs for 2.5 million unemployed people. Or also they've unveiled a scheme to force the unemployed to do jobs for their benefit, to pick up litter perhaps, although we already employ people to pick up litter. They must be feeling very fearful about the security of their jobs. Of course, there is plenty of work the unemployed could be doing. They could be helping in the overstretched public services, in hospitals, in schools, in maintaining public buildings or streets, or indeed building houses. There is work for the unemployed to be doing, but let's pay them properly to do that work instead. And of course, do not be an immigrant under the Tory government. They've already unleashed race-hate vans around London, and now Theresa May announced that they intend to deport people without even the right of appeal, before they've had the right of appeal. A policy that's clearly designed, just as their policies on attacking the unemployed are designed to strike fear into the heart of the unemployed and worker alike. This is a policy designed to strike fear into the heart of every immigrant and to silence them. And of course, don't be sick or disabled. There's no let-up in their hatred on the bedroom tax or on the benefit tests which were performed now on disabled people by the hugely discredited ATOS, which nonetheless raked in 500 million in the last 4 years for persecuting the sick and disabled and overriding what their doctors say, the evidence from their GPs on their sick notes. Now just think of ATOS the next time you hear Cameron say that profit is not a dirty word. So who are the Tories for, brothers and sisters? Well, they're telling us this week with a rather eerie, I don't know if you saw it when you were in Manchester last week, rather eerily, the 4 hard-working people in an arch over the conference, which reminded me, I'm sure it reminded many of you, brothers and sisters, of Work Sets You Free, above the work camps in Germany. Who are they for? This for hard-working people, they say. Well, actually, of course they are. They are for hard-working people. Lord Young made that very clear a few months ago when he invited investment into Britain, saying there'd never been a better time to invest in Britain because wages are so low. Another leading Tory this week let the cat out of the bag when he called for the £6.31 minimum wage, a pitiful amount, to be scrapped. That is what they are about. Austerity, as I think our speakers this morning made very clear, is nothing to do about driving up fear, and it is about driving down wages to maximise their profit. And it's working. In the Sunday Times Rich List revealed this year, we discovered that the top 1,000 richest Brits, their winnings, their earnings this year went up by £35 billion. Money that we can't even really imagine. But a figure we can imagine, their increase was 8.5%, a wage increase that none of us saw. 15 million UK citizens are currently living in poverty. The biggest rise in child poverty, though, is in the households where at least one parent is working. In-work poverty for children is on the rise at an astonishing rate. Kids who live in a family where one or more parents are working are now, under this government, twice as likely to be living in poverty as they were. The Britain that I grew up in as a kid, and that my parents grew up in, had a sense of being a fair and an equal society where you at least had chances. The gap between rich and poor in Britain now is widening every day, to the extent that although we now are still the 7th richest country in the world, we are 34th in terms of equality, in terms of the gap between rich and poor. And Oxfam warned last week that the gap between rich and poor is now becoming as wide as in South Sudan. The Tories have created unequal Britain, and they have taken away all the chances for our kids and for us too as workers. But people don't want this, and despite the fear, they are starting to want to fight back. Polls are now starting to show that attitudes which were very hard towards benefits are now starting to reverse. As people are starting to understand what it's really about. And of course, more people now, as revealed this week in a poll, oppose the bedroom tax, which is already hated. I took to the streets of Manchester last week with 50,000 others last Sunday. Many of you in this room were there too, I know. And we told the Tories in no uncertain terms what we think of their policies and their attacks on our NHS and austerity. That was absolutely magnificent. And on Tuesday, the teachers in this area and in Yorkshire too were on strike in huge numbers to defend their pay and conditions from Tory cuts, but also importantly to defend our kids' education. And thousands of them took to the streets for marches and rallies and received huge support. People, I think, are sick of austerity now and do want to stop it. The NHS demo in Manchester was great, but already it's been touched on, it didn't receive very much publicity. And the question is why? Why was that? Well, I think it was quite simple. The press ignored it because they could. They could ignore it because it was a Sunday afternoon in Manchester. And although it was big, it really wasn't causing very much disruption. However, a much smaller protest really in terms of numbers, the teachers' strike this week, was not ignored. Although it only took part in this part of the country and in Yorkshire, it still received massive publicity because of the huge disruption it caused. It's very difficult to ignore thousands of schools being shut. We have to organise protests, but we must organise effective, disruptive strike action too if we are going to stop the Tories. We need to get the Tories to stop their austerity measures, but we also need to force Labour to ditch austerity too. The magnificent homeless workers that Ian spoke so passionately about in his session, fantastic inspiration, showed us that it's not only possible to strike back against the Tories, it's also possible to win. The teachers will strike again on October the 17th and are committed to a full national strike as well. The Fire Brigades Union are also looking to take action over attacks on their pension and service soon. My union, PCS, has been consulting with our members about the next wave of our strike action. And we will be taking further strike action from November, again, hopefully this time with other unions too. The Lecturers Union, UCU, is balloting over pay cuts and 0 hours, and so of course are the Royal Mail workers. And we can still stop that privatisation in its tracks. Pay cuts announced this morning in the NHS will harden the attitudes of millions of, not millions, thousands of NHS workers. All union leaders need to listen to their members and start coordinating action to get Britain off its knees and get us the pay rise that we all deserve, but more importantly, that we now need. I'm proud of the role that Unite the Resistance has had in helping to build solidarity and campaigning during the Hovis dispute. We're now building resistance across the trade union movement from the bottom up. That's why Unite the Resistance Conference on October the 19th will be very important. There'll be some great speakers, Billy Hayes will be there, and others like Ian too, but also there'll be practical sessions and workshops about how we can build resistance among trade unions where the leaders are failing to call the action that we need. Because I can't wait. When I say I can't wait, I don't mean it in a good way. I can't wait for 2015 for things to get better. In Leeds, it will be similar in Leicester. In Leeds, 40% of council house tenants are now in arrears with their rent. 40%. They cannot wait till 2015. Neither can 1/3 of workers who are currently one paycheck away from homelessness. 500,000 relying on food banks to survive can't wait. 27,000 British people died last winter because of the cold. How many will die this winter because of the cold? They cannot wait. 90% of UK teachers reported this week that they see children coming into their schools so hungry because of malnourishment that they have to buy them food in Britain, the 7th richest country in the world. Brothers and sisters, in the 7th richest country of the world, it would be wrong to wait till 2015 to start putting some of this right. Whether our leaders want to organise us or not, we need to do it for ourselves. We are the people, and we can do it, and we will. One final thought to leave you with. Much has been said this week about speaking ill of the dead. I have to mention Margaret Thatcher. She was remembered at the Tory party conference this week. Well, most of us can't forget that either. But we defeated her, not through death, not even through the ballot box. We defeated her by people power on the street, over the poll tax. Now, Labour didn't lead that. They didn't lead the poll tax struggle. And actually, nor did the TUC. We did, and we won, and we can do it again. That's why we're all here today. Let's build a campaign. Let's build massive protests on November the 5th, but let's build mass action too.